going to an orthopedic was my part-time hustle. Not really progressing as a nation that respects what workload management is, what stress a junior goes through, right?
Any advice to aspiring orthopedics? Should we do sports medicine? Should we not do sports medicine?
Someone who's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years senior to you, that हमारे टाइम में तो ये होता था, आपके टाइम में तो at least ये है. That is a problem. The HOD has made people in their department go and buy shoes for his kids.
Oh my God.
How does a junior say, no, I won't do it? I see a lot of doctors writing 5 medicines just to let the opposite person feel satisfied that I paid money and I got something to take. Is this the only way to make money? I say probably not. Sachin, I got to meet him a couple of times at Ganpati because Sachin Tendulkar, he's like, मैंने 20 साल से चावल नहीं खाया है.
Hello and welcome. Today we have Dr. Manan Vora, the Dr. Manan Vora, who everybody knows. Everybody has been inspired by his story. He specializes in orthopedics and sports medicine. He's been a venue doctor at several important sporting events. He's also been a doctor at an Indian football club and the co-founder of NutriBytes. An absolute pleasure here, doctor. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you so much, Abhijit. Thank you for having me and looking forward to a very interesting chat. And I hope the viewers have a great takeaway as well. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So, doctor, tell us why orthopedics, why sports medicine? Tell us how it started, how your interest in medicine.
So I come from a complete family medical background. So literally the dining table conversations used to be about patient cases. That is the environment that I have grown up in. Apart from that, I have been into sports all my life. I was a national level lawn tennis player. I have played, inter-school when it comes to table tennis, cricket, football. I represented Indian Airlines for 6 years in domestic cricket as well. So I've just been an athlete throughout my life. Now, because of this, the number of times I've gotten injured, let's get to the numbers. I've had 12 ligament tears, 4 fractures, and about 6 tendon injuries as well. So it's like going to an orthopedic was my part-time hustle for that matter. And then recovering from injuries was also part of the process. When I got into medical school, it was right from day one in anatomy. I just started liking limb anatomy a lot more. And just as I went to second year, third year, I think it became very clear that I wanted to kind of get into orthopedics because that was something that interested me a lot more because of the entire background I had with sports injuries, with musculoskeletal issues, and my liking towards anatomy early on as well. So generally what happens is in first year, we have anatomy and physiology. So those who end up loving physiology, and then of course in subsequent years, you end up liking those subjects, you end up taking something in the medical line. If you like anatomy and then towards surgery, you end up taking a surgical line. So for me, it was very clear that I wanted to go into orthopedics. And then when I found out that there's a new subspecialty of orthopedics called sports medicine that caters towards athletes, or in today's generation, anyone who wants to aspire to even be a recreational athlete, a fitness enthusiast, anyone who wants to be more mobile, which I hope we're at a point now that everyone wants to be. You end up catering to them as well, the injuries they have, the issues they have. And I just took an instant liking to it because I found it so relatable. It was something that I have been doing right from my childhood growing up as a potential athlete as well. So that's how it kind of just all came together. My love for medicine in general, my love for sports in general, and I'm just super happy doing that in a way where I can just amalgamate all these and just apply them to my day-to-day life.
Super. That was quite a start, right? And very inspiring. Any advice to aspiring orthopedics today, right? Because there's always been a little bit of talk about there's a bit of toxicity. There's been a talk about should we do sports medicine? Should we not do sports medicine? So any advice for them?
So, sports medicine in India is actually very, very different from sports medicine abroad.
Okay.
What happens abroad is that the sports medicine doctor is practically an internal medicine doctor for athletes. So actually abroad what happens is if you're an athlete and you have a skin condition, you have any gynecological problem, you have any internal medicine problem, you go to the sports medicine doctor who first evaluates you and then if required, they even go about the primary care, but if required, refers you on to the specialist of that particular field. Whereas in India, it's very different because the access to consultants and specialists is so easy. Tomorrow, if someone has a dermat problem, they're not coming to me, and I'm kind of happy they're not coming to me because I don't think it's my area of expertise. But over here, it's very specific to sports injury management. So over here in India, when we say sports medicine, it's practically sports injuries. But abroad, when it's sports medicine, it actually means you're a medical doctor for any sports person. So that's the crucial differentiation. Now, what happens in India also is we've got arthroscopy surgeons who call themselves sports medicine specialists, but they're practically sports surgeons. So again, we need a little bit of demarcation there because the word sports medicine is actually being thrown out a lot. In fact, I'll be honest with you, there are arthroscopic surgeons who call themselves sports medicine specialists. There are sports medicine interventional specialists, which is what I come under. We also say sports medicine. We also have physios who are now using the word sports medicine, where technically it should be sports physiotherapy, but they also use sports medicine. I mean, it's again tough to again demarcate, but this is what the landscape, kind of is. So there is a lot of overlap because sports physios also are treating sports injuries. Sports medicine doctors are also treating sports injuries, and arthroscopic surgeons are also treating sports injuries. So I get a lot of DMs from potential, NEET PG students who kind of message and say that now there are MD sports medicine seats. Wow. Should I take that or should I take orthopedics and then do sports medicine? So again, there's a slight confusion that they have because technically orthopedic surgery is available at a much higher rank. Sports medicine seats are available at a slightly lower rank. So people who are not getting those orthopedic surgery seats are very curious to know that if I take sports medicine, will I do what, let's say, you are doing, Dr. Manan is doing. So that's where I have to explain to them that generally in India, if you end up doing just sports medicine, you will be involved slightly in the medical management of athletes, whether you work for Sports Authority of India or you work for Olympic Gold Quest. There are a lot of these places that take these kind of doctors, or you end up kind of joining ISL teams as the team doctor. You end up becoming a venue doctor, and these are the options that you have. Of course, technically a sports medicine doctor, because they've done MBBS, can go into interventions and all those things, but they definitely can't go into arthroscopic surgery.
Understood.
So that is the general point that they need to understand, that you need to be ready for more of a job-like structure if you go into MD sports medicine, because you'll be reliable, you'll be reliant on those jobs that are coming from these places. But if you end up taking orthopedic surgery and then doing sports medicine, the chance of a private practice may be slightly higher because people are more aware that they need to visit an orthopedic surgeon first. Having said that, it's wrong to generalize and say someone who does sports medicine cannot kill it in private. Of course you can, but the chances are a little lesser because the patient awareness, or people still know that if I have an issue with my back or my knee or my ankle or my elbow or my shoulder, first I'm going to go to an orthopedic doctor. So that is the general reason why people are a little apprehensive. Should I do sports medicine? Should I do orthopedics?
Super helpful. Yeah. Super helpful, doctor. I think that was very thorough. So thank you for sharing that. How was your experience in residency? And the reason I ask is, I think today there's been a lot of light thrown on residency, and it's a difficult time for a large percentage of medical professionals. So how was it for you? How were the 36-hour shifts? How were the toxic cultures? Any feedback, any guidance?
I wish they were 36 hours, but they were much more than that. So again, I'm from a BMC setup. So we had like a 400 patient OPD. We had patients which were on the bed and some on the floor because they didn't have beds. Our ward duties, writing files, doing everything. So while that's kind of part of the journey, and I think it made me what I am today, I think the biggest issue lies in people telling their juniors that this is part of the cycle that you need to go through. So that is where I see the biggest issue is. Just because seniors did this, like for example, I am now 5 years post my post-graduation. Just because I did it doesn't mean today's first-year student needs to do it. Because otherwise we're not really progressing as a nation that respects what workload management is, what stress a junior goes through, right? Similarly, that cycle is still continuing because every time you're in first year or you're in second year, you're told by someone who's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years senior to you that हमारे टाइम में तो ये होता था, आपके टाइम में तो at least ये है. That is a problem. Just because it was okay then doesn't mean it's okay now. Just because it was acceptable and the norm then doesn't mean it's the norm now. We did go through those shifts because we were expected to. It was told to us that ये काम तो है ही first year का. ये काम तो है ही सेकेंड ईयर का, और उसके बाद लाइफ becomes better. Third year में you're just giving orders to people, SR-ship में you're just giving orders to the third year, lecturer में you're just giving orders to the SR. So that hierarchy that was created and that entire environment that is created is just accepted as the norm until we wake up and realize that that norm can be changed. If you come up with rules, if the dean of the college only says that sorry, change this, divide duties accordingly. Someone will be pissed off when that rule comes, because someone who's just crossed that path and is now told now you have to also help that person is obviously going to be pissed off.
Yeah, of course.
But that's what it takes to create that change. So once you end up creating that change is only when we'll actually be progressing towards improving the system overall.
Of course.
I'm pretty sure people have tried and it's just not gone ahead. And it's also a situation where there are so many people ready to take those posts and ready to take those seats that you can't really just not be good enough. Also, what happens is a lot of the medical postgraduate branches, the amount of work you get, now when I say work, and this applies more in the surgical fields, we are kind of conditioned to follow what is required, because if we don't, we won't get operations to do. We won't get opportunities to perform surgeries as a junior. So you're constantly in that cycle that how can I say no to this? मुझे जो भी बोला मुझे तो करना ही पड़ेगा. कल मेरे बॉस ने बोला कि इसके लिए presentation बना ले, करना पड़ेगा. I have been part of a college or an ecosystem where, and I won't take names obviously, where the HOD has made people in their department go and buy shoes for his kids.
Oh my God.
So go here, buy shoes. Go here, I'm talking about a time when we did not have the ease of quick commerce like we do now, or the way deliveries happen now, or even porters happen and whatever, that go and pick this up from somewhere, go give it 20 minutes away, go and do this, and at odd hours, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. So my point is, how does a junior say, no, I won't do it? Because he or she can't say no, I won't do it. You'll have to do it. Because if you say no, you won't do it, unfortunately, that answer will be in their mind the next day when you come to work. So it's a very different, can you imagine this happening anywhere in any other country where a boss calls you and says, pick up a parcel from here, go drop it there right now. No, are you free right now? No, and I know of people who have left movies in the middle and gone and done this because there was no question asked that, are you free? Can you please do it? Is this something that you would be able to do today? Because I need you to do me a favor. So you can be polite and get it done and like just remember it as a something.
No, of course.
It's literally a किधर है? हाँ, ये पार्सल यहाँ से उठाना है, वहाँ पहुँचाना है, हो जाएगा तो WhatsApp कर देना. Phone down, not even waited for you to say yes.
Oh my God.
Or where you are or what you are doing.
Very, very toxic.
So it reaches a point where they don't have an option. So that culture still exists, and it's not going to go tomorrow, day after, a year from now, because it's being filtered down by seniors in departments of colleges where they thought it was a norm कि जब मैं छोटा था मैंने तो कर लिया था, अभी मैं seniority पे पहुंचा, अभी मैं दूसरे से करवा लूंगा. That cycle is the issue.
You know, one thing that's been spoken about a lot, doctor, is that in orthopedics, the number of women are just very limited. Any reason for that? Any thoughts? How can we probably provide change?
So this entire stereotype stems from the place that in hardcore orthopedics and in majorly what happens in residencies, that the focus is on trauma work. So trauma generally requires some sort of strength. So it stems from the stereotype that women have lesser strength than men, and hence women should probably avoid a field like orthopedics because you may have to, let's say, do some sort of traction and actually move limbs which you may not have the strength to do, or a lot of the implant fixations require some sort of strength because of the work that we do. That is what the stereotype stems from generally.
So, doctor, could you tell us a little bit about your practice? And, one thing that my conversation with medical professionals has come up, that it's a lifelong journey of learning, right? Where every case teaches you something different and then you're prepared even better for the next case. Could you tell us a little bit about your practice and maybe a couple of cases that have shaped your way of thinking?
Correct. So, one thing I think everyone needs to understand is that, especially when you're in the private practice, which I am, you are going to peak generally after 40. It's very unlikely that someone is going to peak in their 30s or mid 30s because then something would have had to go wrong for that to have been your peak. You may have an earlier start or an earlier boost than your colleagues. So it just becomes a situation where everything that you're doing to get into that elite category of a private practitioner, whether it is fame wise, whether it is success wise, whether it is money wise, whatever it is, you have to be constantly open to unlearning and learning. The reason why I say that is because a lot of people forget the unlearning aspect. They feel that okay, मैं थोड़े research papers पढ़ लूँगा, मैं थोड़े interesting cases से सीख लूँगा, and what it teaches me is going to shape my career. So what happens there is, let's assume you are rating yourself as a 7 on 10 as a doctor. Let's say I rate myself as a 7 on 10 orthopedic doctor at this age. And I think that a little bit of research, a little bit of conferences, a little bit of seeing some good videos online, or a little bit of practical learning from cases will make me a 7.2, 7.4, 7.8. But there could be a time where you may either plateau, or you may have that tunnel vision and think that मैंने अब तक जो सीखा है वो ही right way है, and there is nothing else. That's where you need to keep your mind a little open and go from a 7 on 10 to 5 on 10, because when you unlearn, you open up an entire broadened scope to go from 5 on 10 to a 9 on 10.
Fair.
So unlearning is something that everyone needs to understand. It's not just about updating yourself. It's not just about upskilling, because science and technology now with AI, everything is moving at a pace where things that you didn't know of 5 years ago are going to happen. Now you have your qualification in place, but what you did during your residency could be outdated right now.
Very true. Very
now
true.
You cannot just keep being stuck with that line of treatment, or that line of technology, or that line of machinery or instruments, or whatever it is, and just assume that is the only way forward just because someone else out there is doing it, तो मेरा भी practice इससे निकल जाएगा. That's when you have to take a step back and realize, wait, what is going to happen over the next 5 years? What is going to happen over the next 10 years? It's not a very difficult trend to predict, because we are generally 5 to 8 years behind the West when it comes to anything that they try out. I'm not saying our doctors are not as skilled, so please don't get me wrong. I think we have way more skilled specialists and everyone over here compared to the West, because of the sheer volumes with which people have practiced the skills that have been taught from different parts of the world. But in terms of newer things, generally you hear it more from the West, and then it kind of filters here. Indian companies pick it up, or foreign companies start getting stuff over here, and that's how it gets this thing. So you do have that advantage of knowing what's happening there first. Those guys are the ones innovating sometimes, and they don't know what's going to come next, but you know what's going to come next. So having that adaptability to unlearn and then apply it to your cases, see those results, maybe publish a few papers, and then take it forward is how you go from that 7 on 10 to 9 on 10. So that having that mindset is the first thing. I see a lot of Indian doctors not have that mindset. They feel कि जो मैंने last 5 साल में सीखा है, यही मुझे अगले 25-30 साल करना है. Which is where I think a few of them may end up hitting that plateau. Because when others provide those other treatment solutions around you, you will realize you've been left behind. So that having that open mind is very important, and I'm happy to have had a few mentors who taught me this. Because it's not something I came up with, right? They taught me to have that open mind. So that is something that I think would be a great takeaway for anyone listening to this.
I think I really like the fact that you said about learning and unlearning, right? As an entrepreneur, and today as we've been building Knya, I think my role has evolved so much that I think the learning and unlearning part becomes so critical, because then sometimes you have to just forget what you knew, the way of the path before. But I think super. Any particular case that you want to talk about? Because I feel like that you felt like which was very complex, which you felt like, it was difficult at first, but you were able to overcome it and you felt so much better at the end of it, or you were not able to overcome it, and what were your learnings from it?
So one particular case would be of, a footballer who had an ACL tear and was advised an ACL reconstruction surgery. It takes a lot of guts to tell an ACL tear footballer that, hey, look, let's try without surgery. So that is something that I undertook in one particular athlete, and he's an Indian footballer. We did a minimal access regenerative procedure and put him on ACL rehab as if his ACL has been reconstructed. And he's actually playing the I-League even now without having done that ACL reconstruction. The takeaway from that being that despite being an orthopedic surgeon, I strongly believe in the body's ability to heal without surgery. until it's absolutely indicated or required. So again, I feel we are again in a day and age, and I hope my orthopedic colleagues don't hate me for saying this, but the aggressiveness with which a surgery is being recommended is something that is very visible and not very pleasing. Because if you put yourself or your own family member in that thing. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying a wrong surgery is being done. So it's not technically wrong advice, it's correct advice. That is the management. An ACL reconstruction surgery is the correct treatment protocol for someone with a complete ACL tear. So whoever has advised that is right. But did you exhaust each and every option before going in for that? Or were you too aggressive in jumping into that? Is the slight question and slight debate. And I'm on the other fence, really trying to avoid surgery, even though my bread and butter would technically be getting people on the operation table. So that's super interesting. I mean, the satisfaction you get when you see that player on TV and you're like, hey man, you didn't have to undergo that, and I had some role to play in that. That's what makes you happy at the end of the day.
I love that you said that, right? Because we speak to so many physiotherapists on a daily basis, and often they feel a little underserved. They feel a little bit they don't get their due. And in fact, I was talking to a physiotherapist recently who's a customer of Knya, and he was like, so I told him, I have Dr. Manan Vora, who's an orthopedic surgeon here. And he was like, please ask him about what his thoughts about physiotherapists and how can we kind of as a community respect them a little bit more.
Correct. So, I mean, I have the immense respect for the work they do, because without them, I won't get the results that I do. My own real sister is a cardio physiotherapist.
Oh, wow.
So she's specialized in cardiorespiratory. So she helps post-heart surgery patients or patients with lung conditions get back. She's not into musculoskeletal, which most physios are known for. What I genuinely believe in the most is exercise therapy. I have started using the word exercise therapy or exercise therapist for the physios I work with or the physios on my team, because physios are otherwise doing a lot of other modalities, which I may not have the highest opinion of, even though this is not a negative to the physio community at all. So I strongly believe that exercise is medicine, and that exercise prescription is something that patients need to take as seriously as a medical prescription or a surgical prescription. So there are times, and in nowadays, I would say about 6 cases out of 10, when patients come to me after an entire 30-minute consult, because that's what I do. I consult every patient for 30 minutes. So that's how I like to build my USP, that I cannot assess you in 5 minutes. I need 30 minutes. At the end of 30 minutes, I leave them with a prescription which involves a referral to an exercise therapist and a few areas that I want the exercise therapist to focus on without telling the exercise therapist what to do, because that's their area of expertise. But that is literally how I counsel my patients, that exercise literally is the prescription that I want you to follow. Now, a couple of times that's backfired because people have gone out and said, हाँ, इनके पास गए, पैसे लिए इन्होंने, कुछ दवाई नहीं लिखी. And that's when I realized I need to spend 5-10 minutes more in counseling them and telling them that you're not understanding. I am doing the right thing for you by not writing any medicines, because I don't think you require them. Again, I see a lot of doctors writing 5 medicines, 2 or 3 will be supplements, 2 or 3 will be vitamins, just to let the opposite person feel satisfied that I paid money and I got something to take. But here I'm trying to educate you that I don't want you to pop unnecessary pills. I don't want you to take unnecessary things. I want you to go to an exercise therapist, follow a particular protocol, and you will come back to me and tell me that you are feeling better, because I am that sure that exercise is medicine. So for that, of course, we can't do it without the exercise therapist. We can't do it without these physios who are using good, genuine evidence-based medicine to formulate these rehabilitation and return to sport protocols that help our patients get better. So I have the utmost respect for them. Absolutely.
Super. Compared to, your dad's time, right? And you obviously come from a family of doctors, you have that perspective. How has technology changed your day-to-day practice, right? Or if you see your dad's practice, how has it evolved? There's so much talk about the GPTs, there's so much talk about telemedicine, there's so much talk about improved medical device and the hardware, tracking of data. How has it kind of changed your day-to-day way of kind of operating and giving a better service to the patient?
So starting right from social media, because I think we know each other
Interesting.
because of that. Currently, 85% of the patients who come to my clinic are via my social media.
Wow.
Okay, now of course I am extremely junior, so that number is obviously very high. As I grow senior, I would hope that by word of mouth, people would come in even though they don't know about what I do on social media. So, to answer that question from the start, it would be the use of social media, the use of creating your own channel and distribution to get people in when they haven't even heard of you.
Yeah.
So even though my dad's practice is more hyper local, so it's more like 5 kilometers radius,
Fair.
I have people coming from 1.5 hours away, or
super.
the other side of the ceiling, or Thane, Mulund, absolutely everywhere, because
Interesting.
they have seen me online and already broken that first barrier of what to
Trust,
expect,
maybe.
what to expect and
Yeah,
trust, right?
yeah.
So usually when you go to a doctor, there are so many times, and people would say this in general, that the first time they see the doctor's face is when they open the door. They haven't seen the doctor's face anywhere else.
Fair.
Fine, if you Google and the Google business page has a picture, or the Practo has a picture, that's a different thing. But you don't really know how they look, or at least how they'll be speaking to you. So here, that trust has already been established, because when they watch my videos, even though I'm not technically addressing them, I'm not talking to them in person, they feel that मुझे लगता है ये बंदा मेरी बात सुनेगा. I feel he'll be a good listener. I feel he'll talk to me nicely. I like the kind of principles he goes by. I like that he follows evidence-based medicine. So these are the things I hear. So I've already created a first impression before you walked into my clinic. So that is
Got
one
it.
of course step. Now when it comes to data, my dad, after 35 years of ENT practice, still doesn't have any data of any of his patients, because it's a simple. You call the receptionist, you take the appointment,
Yeah.
you come for the consult. If you need surgery, it's a different thing. But otherwise, you get your prescription, you go. They come back if they want, whatever. Right? There's no. He's not built his own email list. He's not built his own mobile numbers. He's not done that. Whereas I have started my practice, I'm already building that.
Yeah.
So they get an
Very
email
interesting.
reminder from me. They get a WhatsApp marketing from me. They get those things. So obviously you're kind of keeping your own patients within your network and within your loop. You're dropping them a reminder that, hey, if you need anything, I'm still here for you. Or if not, here's some information that may help you, right? So just keeping your own patient management software, and there are so many companies who do that at a very small monthly fee. You are able to actually own your data and own your patients and build your entire list, right? And I'm sure you guys are doing that as well with everyone who ever places an order with you. So that is something that our generation has picked up very early on, because again, someone in their mid 40s has to start from scratch. My dad's early 60s, so he's like, I'm very happy with life. Whatever's coming is coming. Investments are in place. I don't need to get into any headache. I'm very happy. I don't need anything. So that's when I've tried to convince him to start this. He's like, don't change anything I'm doing. So, but we have that advantage of starting right at the start. So 20 years later, can you imagine the patient volume, the data that we'll have to actually use in any way possible? And I do a lot of other things apart from medicine as well, building other products and all, and I can use that data for absolutely anything that I do, right? To put that into that as well. So that is something that is super great.
So my next question was, how do you manage your time, right? Because of creating content, running a business, taking care of patients. It's a lot of balancing to do. I think you answered some of it, but any tips on kind of upcoming doctors who are building up they're building out their practice on how they should probably spend their time?
So I'll be honest. I have the same number of hours as everyone else, and I don't think I'm doing something which is superhuman or something in on those terms. The reason why I have a little liberty to do all these things is because I haven't committed to a fixed salaried position. I do understand that not everyone may be in that position to take that call. Some people need to be part of it, either to get more hands-on experience or due to the need for that fixed income, or they are probably staying in a place that's away from their home, so they have to do a lot of things. So I do understand that the position that I have got, or the reason I've been able to make that decision, is something that I am obviously very grateful for, and not everyone may apply to that. Having said that, I think everyone today has the ability to put themselves out there. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to become an influencer or content creator overnight, but you have to let your personality out on some social media platform, because whether it is a future person who will hire you, a senior doctor who will ever want to work with you, patients who will want to come to see you, they will only see your personality if you put it out. There's only so many conferences you can go to. There's only so many places you can go to that will actually help you, get newer opportunities. You have a mobile device and data, which absolutely everyone does, irrespective of what background they come from. There's really no excuse where you can say that I am not able to put myself out there, because
Yeah.
you can do that yourself. So that's one thing I think everyone needs to understand, that they themselves can be a personal brand,
Yeah.
and that they can start building that even though they are in medical school. You won't believe, I've seen a couple of MBBS people on LinkedIn who have 10,000 followers. Huh?
Wow.
They have 10,000 followers, and they are active in those Rotaract clubs of the medical colleges. They are active in the festivals, and they're just sharing experiences of what they're learning outside the classroom, and they are growing on social media. So they will be in a much better position to land up anywhere in terms of a job or a fellowship or things like that. Funnily enough, since I started creating content on social media, all the opportunities that I have got, including the 1-year fellowship that I went for in Chennai, happened because of my social media, or because I messaged someone via social media and they took me more seriously, or they found me on social media and reached out to me. So it's the benefits are, endless. The second takeaway that I'd like to give them is, please don't hesitate to network. Because a lot of medical students think that अब मैं मेरे मेडिकल कॉलेज में चला गया और अब मुझे बस वहाँ 5 साल निकालना है, फिर मुझे नीट पीजी क्रैक करना है, वहाँ जाना है, बट थ्रू आउट, और वो तो आपको करना ही है, दैट इज द पाथ दैट एवरीवन इज गोइंग टू फॉलो. लेकिन the amount of opportunities you get, whether it is different batches of your MBBS, whether it is medical college festivals, whether it is with the faculty, when you're an intern with residents of different departments, when you're going for PG, it's residents in different departments, conferences, you will be surprised that just talking to people, again sharing experiences, you will gain things way more than your textbooks. You will learn some experience, you will be introduced to someone else who will help you in some way or the other. So just put yourself out there. Don't hesitate to network. The journey is not just between you, your books, and that exam. Ultimately, we are all humans. We need human interaction, we need socialization, we need to put ourselves out there for opportunities to come our way. They won't come your way unless you put yourself out there. So I think building your personal brand online is a good advice for absolutely everyone. And offline, being more in person and talking to people, learning from their experiences and networking can really take someone very far.
Super. No, I think there have been a lot of upcoming doctors and doctors who are looking at your content and be like, maybe I can do that.
Absolutely.
Right?
And anyone can. It's
right?
not,
so
it's
I
not
think
special.
it's super inspiring on your behalf to give them that belief at least that they can do it.
Sure.
So Dr. Manan, you had mentioned in one of your TED Talks, the footwear and the kind of the ergonomics of the products that you wear around your body are super important to take care of your health and fitness. Right. Now we are a brand where we are creating products to make doctors feel better about themselves. Right. So any thoughts or feedback on kind of just obviously about scrubs per se, the attire worn by medical professionals at work, or to kind of your general audience about taking care of outfits and products that make you feel a little bit better about yourselves?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I personally wear scrubs only now, right? The reason being because I don't want to wake up and think what to wear on a particular day. So it's just, I wear separate scrubs to OPD, separate to the hospital. Of course, in the OT it's different, but it just makes me feel like, I am in the skin of a doctor. So it's like my cape or my superhero costume. And it's kind of become synonymous with that. It's like I'm a different person without them, and I'm a different person as soon as they come on. So I think it's super cool to, find yourself those products that make you feel better, because at the end of the day, our product is our ability to communicate and use our years of medical knowledge, expertise, and experience to convey something to a patient. So your current mood, your confidence level, how you are on that particular day plays a big role. I mean, I actually know of people who see 50 patients a day. To say that their level of precision or decision making in number 50 same as number 1, they'd be lying to themselves. So it goes a lot in trying to get every external factor in place to make you feel good, to make you feel confident. And if you have a great pair of scrubs for that, why not?
Yeah, awesome. So doctor, you've been creating a lot of content about the importance of living a long life and ways to do that. But you'll have probably naysayers, maybe new age, Gen Z, medical students, doctors who will come and say, what, I actually don't care much for a long life. I don't mind having a short life, but a fulfilled life. What would you say to that?
So there's two concepts that someone needs to understand. I speak about lifespan, which is the length of your life, and I speak about health span, which is the quality of your life.
Sure.
The only reason I speak about increasing your lifespan is because at the same time you have to increase the quality of your life, because you will live longer. science, medicine, and technology is evolving to keep people longer for as long as possible. And for someone who says that I'd rather live short, I really don't know what they mean, because obviously if something happens to them, their loved ones and everyone is going to try to keep them alive for as long as possible. The question arises is that how do you find a way to live a fulfilled life even for a longer duration? And a major component of that is by looking after your physical and mental health. Because how will you live a fulfilled life? Let's say you are 65 years of age, you want to travel the world, you want to spend time with your grandkids, and you don't want to be dependent on a stick or on a helper. The only way to do that is by taking steps in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s by looking after your physical and mental health to be that point. And as you age, you will understand the definition of fulfillment will also change. Fulfillment will not always be binge eating outside and drinking long and partying long. It will change to not being dependent on other people, spending time with loved ones, or even traveling the world. So it's about living longer, but a fulfilled long life.
Yeah. So, doctor, you're a third generation doctor, right? And I think that obviously comes with a lot of kind of, comments and judgment from maybe potentially your classmates, maybe your colleagues. How has that experience been to be from a family of doctors, and particularly a third generation?
Even though I'm a third generation doctor, I'll be honest with you, because my dad didn't end up taking my granddad's field and I didn't end up taking my dad's field, I haven't really enjoyed the supreme benefits of, the familial medical practice that some do. It's very common in gynacs. Usually, if you end up taking gynac, it's because your parent is a gynac, you have a maternity hospital, you have that setup, or a dermat's child will take dermat because there's a clinic set up and things like that. So while it has been very great for me in terms of the initial boost you get, because your family has been serving so many families in that area, the initial trust is a little higher.
Fair.
But because it's not the same field, you still need to start from scratch and be good at what you do. Because it's not like you're getting the same patient. You're getting the same patient for a different condition, but you're not taking over your father's practice or anything like that. So it has been a mix of both. It's been nice because the word of mouth spread is easier, because I get access to all my dad's patients. We also consult out of the same OPD. So all patients who come to that area know that he's in this room, I'm in this room. They take my business card, they visit me. So that bit is definitely nice. But if I was taking over his practice, it would be a whole different ball game, right? So I haven't really experienced the benefits of that. Having said that, should it be a deciding factor if someone is picking medicine? I think in metro cities it's important, because it's very difficult for people in metro cities today to afford clinics and start right from scratch.
Understood.
Having said that, if someone is passionate, of course, please go ahead and take medicine. That's not my point. But you have that initial boost that, private practice ka thoda clinic setup to hai. So at least I know that right now I don't have to pay rent anywhere. Whereas if I was starting from scratch in metro cities, for a 31-year-old to start off from scratch, hire their own staff, pay their own rent, electricity bills, I'll barely break even. I'll probably be in losses, and I'm admitting that. So it's very difficult in that sense for someone who's not coming from a medical family background. Of course, this discussion pertains to private practice. You can always have a government job, you can have a post, you can work in a corporate hospital on a fixed pay, and you can continue that also and switch to private when you're a lot more stable. But for someone who's just started off, I've had that little boost of not worrying about rent. But I've also had to work my socks off to build my clientele, because I haven't taken the same branch as my father. My father didn't take the same branch as my grandfather.
Fair. No, super. I think that's very interesting, right? So, doctor, you mentioned, right, something very interesting, right? I think that today we've seen a wave of some surgeons / a wave of certain orthopedic surgeons who may be a little bit more aggressive in their approach towards surgery, right? And on the other hand, we also spoken about how earning money as a medical professional can be difficult early on, especially when you're not doing a job and starting your own practice. That's a bit of a dichotomy here, right? So, any thoughts on that?
So, I do understand when you do the simple math that obviously if you do more surgeries, you'll make more money. But I think at the end of the day, keeping the patient happy is what will kind of reward you in the long run. So everyone needs to understand that you're not playing a short game here. This is not a T20, it's a test match. You're here for the long run, right? You need to find a way to be relevant and interesting enough for someone to visit again and again for the next 30 years of your life, especially if you're starting off. So just by making that 1, 2 or 3 people undergo a surgery which they could have avoided, even though your surgery is the right way to treat and you are doing the surgery fine, you're treating them, at some point your reputation will catch up as someone who is ready to put someone on the table sooner than others. So if you follow the right stepwise protocol and end up in fact avoiding surgery, the chances are that the patient who avoided surgery will hold you in such high regard that when someone around them faces an issue where a surgery might be required, you will be the first one that comes to their mind, because they will say, इनके पास जाना, ये operate तभी करते हैं जब ज़रूरत है. So you end up playing the long-term game.
Fair.
Also, that patient, once you have treated them successfully without surgery, that patient will be your patient for life. They will come back every 2, 3, 4, 5 years whenever they have an issue, and they will take you seriously when they genuinely require surgery as well. So you need to understand that you're playing the long-term game. Don't think about the initial money. You may make a little more in the first 3 years, not be relevant after that, or you may start slow and be relevant for 30. You'd much rather want to be relevant for 30.
Yeah, super. To go back to our earlier conversation, right? I think you've been very fortunate to spend time with some of the world's biggest sporting dignitaries, right, and icons, right? And you've been in a room with them, you've supported them, you've cured them. How has that experience been? Has it been scary? Has it been exhilarating? Share more, because I'm sure people are very curious to hear.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to be in those places, I'll be very honest, because I've had a chance to work with seniors and mentors who put me in those situations after, of course, trusting me. So I am grateful for that. Very difficult otherwise for someone so junior to be able to treat those guys. But it's been extremely interesting because I have been a sports fan all my life, right? So for me to go from a mini starstruck moment to hey, so-and-so, what's up? It's a very different journey, right? Because in my mind and in my body, my heart is pounding and I'm like, okay, he's right there in front of me. But now I'm not a fan. So I need to change my entire approach. It's very interesting because obviously they know that you are what you are and they start treating you very differently compared to a fan. At the end of the day, they are all extremely human. So irrespective of what sometimes you read in the media, I've met so many and I can't think of a single one I would call arrogant or this particular one has an ego. I mean, you hear about this from celebrities if some incident has happened somewhere and they've spoken rudely or something. But when you actually meet them in person, they're extremely down to earth. I think what helps them see me in a different light compared to other doctors is when they get to know that I've been an athlete all my life as well. The reason why that is super important for anyone working with sports injuries or sports medicine is that you understand the psyche of the athlete. You understand that their entire life depends on them being fit enough to play.
Interesting.
Because it's not just about that one match, it's about the selection into the team. They could be removed and replaced by anyone if you decide that they need to sit out 2 weeks more than it's required. Their brand endorsements depend on them actually being in teams and performing. With, of course, franchisee sport, whether it's cricket, football coming up, the auction prices that they get, that depends on them actually performing throughout the year. So you can imagine the pressure that is there in you telling them that, hey, look, because of this, I need you to sit out for this or do this or undergo this. But when they understand that I understand that, and that I will not make them sit out for 1 day more than is actually required, they start respecting me very differently compared to others. Even though I may have probably lesser experience and lesser decision-making skills than someone senior to me, what I have going for me is 25 years of playing sports, right from the age of 4, which probably other 60-year-old doctors don't have. They're probably overweight, inactive, and not athletes themselves, even though they are fantastic surgeons at work. So that mutual respect that I'm able to have with athletes is because of my sporting background, and I use that to my advantage along with my medical expertise.
Super. We know you spent time with Sachin Tendulkar. We know that you've been able to work with him closely as well. We are very curious to hear how was that experience to be with Sachin and how was that?
So I haven't worked with him. Sachin, I got to meet him a couple of times at Ganpati because his niece was in my medical college.
Got it.
And she was in our group. I have not professionally been involved with Sachin Tendulkar in any way, but we used to go to... so Sachin and his brother have Ganpati at their home in alternating years.
Got
So
it.
whenever it was in his brother's house, we got invited because his brother's daughter was my friend and still is my friend from my group in school, in medical college, so sorry. And we got to go to their house and Sachin would be there. And I mean, it's a completely different vibe because he is just himself in that house, right? He's doing the Ganpati Aarti. He's coming with the thali and you're doing this. And I'm like, bhai, main tere aashirwad le lu ke Ganpati ke aashirwad le lu, mujhe pata nahi hai. But it was amazing. And you know, he's literally involved in everything in a way where he, like, we all were going for prasad and there's lunch kept after the Aarti and he's behind the counter serving the food. And I remember this one time when we all took food in our plates, and he hadn't retired then, by the way. So I'm talking of 2012. He retired in 13. Talking of 2012 when he was still an active player, and there was rice over there, and we were all serving rice. Now I happened to take my plate and go towards the buffet, and he came behind me with a plate. तो मुझे लगा चल मैं थोड़ा ट्राई करता हूँ. I'll offer him, like, you know, serving the person behind you वाला थोड़ा chivalry move for Sachin Tendulkar. And he's like, मैंने 20 साल से चावल नहीं खाया है. And I'm like, okay, like, sorry, why did I assume that I could fill your plate and I could decide what you should eat? So he just jokingly laughed it off and said that, bro, I don't eat rice, man. Like, again, this is not an anti-rice thing because someone will say, who said rice is unhealthy? But Sachin wasn't eating rice. So this is just, but super, super sweet, took pictures with all of us. And one fine day we just stopped getting invited because obviously all of us went for PG and everything. We were like, shit, we've not gone back since. But yeah, those memories you take with you.
Quite a story, right? I think it stays with you clearly. I think you've reminiscing it
absolutely.
Since then, right?
I feel I'm still there. So
yeah, no, super.
Yeah.
Since you know you love sports so much, and interestingly, actually, I love sports as well. I'd love to get your thoughts. I'm going to give you the names of some of the greatest sporting personalities in the world. What is one thing that comes to your mind right after you hear them, as quick as possible?
Okay.
Virat Kohli.
His dedication and consistency to fitness, because he has said that he can eat the same meal each and every day for his life, and not a lot of people can do that. He is super committed to that. So I respect that.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, the ability to take a bunch of people around you and upskill their level to a level those players didn't know they themselves were capable of. He was able to do that with his team.
Mary Kom.
Mary Kom, the sheer determination and grit to go through motherhood and still come back and be a top level athlete and succeed for the nation and at an international stage, not many people are capable of that. She was able to do that.
Rafael Nadal.
The tenacity and the never say die attitude is something that of his that I use in my life. He would never give up a point. Winning 1 point from him, it literally takes so much effort. That is what I like to apply when I play sport as well. Just never say no attitude.
And Sania Mirza.
Sania Mirza, her ability to, and this is not taking something away from Sania Mirza because I know she had a lot of success in Grand Slams in the latter part of her career, but her ability to find people to partner up with her who had strengths that she didn't to form a more formidable team. So the takeaway from there is to find people that fill in your weaknesses, and you can apply that for any part in life, for you for that matter, as with you having your co-founder, right? So that is something she did really well.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Manan, it was an absolute pleasure. Learned so much. Anything that you'd like to add, anything that you'd like to share that maybe we've missed out, or which is an important part of your story?
No, I mean, I think we've covered almost everything, but I do know that the target audience here is medical students or pre-med students. So, and I've said this a couple of times before, and my takeaway or my final, I would not even say advice. I don't think I've achieved anything in life to advise anyone, but like a friendly suggestion would be to people that please understand that while you will learn about medicine in your lecture room and in your textbooks, you will learn about life outside both of them. Only when you accept that there is so much out there that even as a potential doctor, you need to know outside those textbooks and outside that classroom is when you will truly excel. So go for every college festival, take part in every event, do quizzes, do whatever you want. Please embrace extracurricular. Don't lose your individuality as a person in trying to find your individuality as a doctor.
Super. Thank you so much, Doctor. It was an absolute pleasure. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure the hundreds and thousands of people that will watch this will also be learning a lot. We're probably getting a lot more DMs, but I think very inspiring stuff. And I think even as a non-doctor, as a non-medical profession, I was able to pick up a couple of things as well.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on the superb work you're doing with Knya and all the work and efforts you're doing for the healthcare workers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Please like, share, and subscribe. Do tell us what was your favorite part of the podcast. For me personally, it was where Dr. Manan shared about the way he collects an incredible amount of data to target his patients and build a relationship with them. And at the same time, leveraging technology more than has ever been used before. Also, please comment and share where you're watching this podcast from, which city, which state. Thank you so much.